this is me. This is the Burton Super Bueno.
A super good, that's Spanish for very good.
Thank you. Peter.
Super bueno.
Yeah, we rode this with the Strata and the
59.
Atlas. And
Some Adidas boots and
Adidas Tactical ADV, Adidas Tactical Lexicon ADV, and Adidas Xera.
And we had many days with every
Many
type
days
of
and many conditions.
every type of condition, from icy groomers to perfect groomers to
Micro bumpy.
to micro bumps to macro bumps to a little bit of powder on top of some icy
4 inches
stuff.
of wind affected.
Yep. Yeah, we got it on everything.
Yeah.
Tested out on everything.
And to give you a short summary, this is a Evo collab with Burton, and it's exclusively at Evo. It takes a lot of those family tree boards, takes a pretty stiff, pretty directional, powerful board, and gives it just a little bit of taper and has that nice border. It's a great daily driver for those who live on the slightly more aggressive side of your riding. Live to turn, that kind of thing. Oh, here you go, Peter.
Thanks.
Anyways.
Use the demos
Yes.
last year.
But to talk about sizing, this 159 is a little bit on the wider side for Peter and I, but yet it still felt pretty good. It wasn't the quickest turning in tight spots or that kind of thing, but I could throw it around pretty well. And
Yeah, especially
I wasn't feeling like I was on a board that's too big. The size, the weight's right. The boot size is a little small for this for us.
man, maybe I'm just
You've been riding a lot of wides.
Maybe we are just
You're riding a lot of wides.
We are riding a lot of wides and a lot of
You're
like
going from
slow
one
churning
wider board
boards.
to another. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually true, we are. But maybe I'm just evolving, because I believe in evolution, Evo, and I'm finding myself really liking that kind of little slower edge to edge, but you know, feeling stable edge to edge. You know, not feeling that fast twitch, and I'm kind of liking it.
Yeah.
But you know,
So let's get into the camber here. It's Burton's typical directional camber. It's a mostly camber ride with just a touch of, it goes camber from the tail all the way to a little bit of early rise in the nose, and it makes for a camber feel. It feels pretty locked in.
feels pretty cambery.
Not full on camber, but pretty close. It's on the border of being locked in and semi-locked in.
yeah, I definitely had some moments where I felt like I could have caught an edge and it wasn't gonna.
It's not gonna.
It didn't feel very forgiving with the camber profile.
It's gonna, like, and when you're down, it might kick you one more time.
I was not on full camber alert, but like a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it tracks so well. It's got the stable, predictable feel in all conditions. Great for one footing, great for a long, flat cat track, but you can get a stable board to do that too that's less catchy. This is definitely more for that advanced to expert rider who really likes more of that like full camber feel, but with a little bit of float. And speaking of flex, I'll do this because of your arm.
I sprained my arm.
Yeah, it is really stiff between the feet. I would say stiff, but then it gets to like medium-ish in the nose.
Still pretty stiffish.
Yeah,
Like
but
I was trying to butter it
medium
and I couldn't
stiff,
really get
medium in the nose,
it in there.
medium stiff on the tail. That's what I would say, because buttering off the tail took a lot of work.
I couldn't lift it up pretty much at all.
I could get it to do it a little bit, but it was hard. It was very hard, and it's taxing. You have to be a strong rider to be able to access this butter-wise. So this doesn't have easily accessible pop like the Hometown Hero does, or the flight, or even to a lesser extent,
I love that
the
Hometown
flight
Hero.
attendant. It feels more on the stiffer side of the family tree spectrum. At least this board we had. Wood, different every way.
But the dampness, which was very lends itself to the style of this board. So the pop, this board is not going for explosive pop.
It does have explosive pop if you're an explosive rider.
Yeah, that's true.
If you can access this pop, it's going to pop higher and do more, drive harder, pop higher,
Definitely.
go bigger. But if you're like us, We could probably go bigger on the flight attendant and the hometown hero because those are easier to get to spring.
Yep.
However, I would say though, the speed on this, the dampness, the power of this board, it just like, Burton's not the ultra damp kind of board. They have that perfect balance between being flexy, damp, and poppy. Yet this is one of the damper Burton rides we've tried. It really has a super bueno pointer.
Yeah. Compared to so many of these other like ultra damp boards and normally riding other Burton boards, I'm like, oh, they don't compare to these boards, you know? Their pop is like way higher. This one definitely meshed in more with like some of these other boards.
Even comparing it to the flagship on one day, that is a very damp, very pointy ride. This felt a little more turny, but just as damp. I was impressed, maybe even a touch damper.
It kept up with all of those other ultra
and we were riding against these super damp Tahoe Labs and the Cruel Auto, which is a very damp board too. This is up on the damp scale, and it can really handle just all kinds of uneven terrain that you're gonna power over, and that's great. Now, the base, great glide too. We didn't even wax it, and this thing's just gliding.
Burton's got glide for days.
They got glide. They're definitely, they're not the glidiest of glidiest, but they're like up there in the top 10%.
They're in the top 10%. They're making crazy amounts of money. Their tax bracket is just ridiculous.
Their glide bracket?
Yeah, their glide bracket.
Yes. And edge hold, that'd be one place where we kind of, you know, it's kind of in that medium, bordering on medium hard grip. I could go out in some firm snow, and it was okay, but almost every other board we tried had just a little more grip, let go. You really have to play around with, you know, you really have to know how to twist and engage edges to get them to grip, but then you could do the same on the other boards and they're gonna grip a little more. So that's kind of one place where you're like, it's a bit of a bummer. But turn initiation.
Yeah, which they never seem to find a problem with because they get mostly feedback from super incredible riders. But like for people like me
us.
more,
yes.
I could use a little bit of more edge hold in my life.
Turn initiation and carving. This is kind of, I felt it was a medium turner, just not super fast. It's not really what I want powering through like a tight bump line if I make a wrong turn, or if I'm for some reason in the mood for that, or going through a tight tree line. I feel like this would be not slalomy enough to get through it for me personally, or tight spots where I needed to, you know, whip it around really quick.
You got to throw some power in there.
Yeah,
for sure.
But once I got it on over on edge, it had good radius. Like it made like a nice wide radius and carving turn, and I could make some circle carves with this, and it just springs out of the turn so well, drives you into that next turn. It just really lights it up. The conditions have to be good, but yeah.
In the tight spots, you know, if you were churning and you wanted to speak to ghosts though, this would be a medium.
I was just like, just be quiet, see where he goes with that. Powder, we didn't really get much powder in this, but there is a decent setback on board. You can see that right now being played. It's kind of comparable to what you would expect for a free ride board. And there is some directional float. There's a longer nose than tail. There's a bit of early rise, a little bit of taper, not as much as most of your family tree boards. I think it's only like 5 or 6 mil taper as opposed to 8 to 12 with a lot of other like family tree style boards. But definitely something that isn't gonna blow your powder mind, but isn't something that you'd necessarily have to put away. If you're looking for a one board quiver, this will hold up pretty well in some deep powder. Switch.
No, not for me personally. Riding switch. It's like possible, but it felt a little
very doable for me.
Felt doable, but
you know, in terms of like on the day we were riding a bunch of directional boards, when I was riding this, I was like, yeah, this is great switch. Then I got on a bunch of twins.
And we got some more twin action.
Yeah. When I got the twin action, you're like, okay,
oh,
it's definitely different. But it's something you can easily get used to. And if you like to throw it switch for a traverse, no problem. And this can fucking air out if you want to go launch off the biggest kickers in the park and you don't,
true.
you know, you can do that. You can get some big cliff drops, and that's kind of what I think this board would be great for, is kind of maybe a slightly bigger footed version of us who likes to go kind of big mountain when you ride more steep terrain in powder, and you just kind of want that kind of aggressive all mountain slash free ride board to really shine for you. The Super Bueno could for sure be Super Bueno.
I definitely feel like if you are a Super Bueno rider, the Super Bueno
You'll match up. Que bueno.
Muy bueno.
Muy bueno.
What's up?
Yeah!